Hi, you guys. My name is Faye, and I need a vacation, and I think you do too. So let's distract ourselves with some reality TV nonsense. Today, we're going to be talking about the fourth episode of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, season 6. And guys, it's another great one. I cannot wait to get into it. So we're back at Lisa's Clarity Luncheon with neither clarity nor lunch. Lisa, however, does shift the attention from Whitney to Angie and confronts her about Angie comparing her to Jen Shaw. And for some reason, Lisa goes,
"And stop lying about the number of salons you own. You only own 1.5 salons. The rest are franchises."
Angie immediately gets pissed off. She's like,
"Let me help you count my cash. I own 3 salons. The rest of them are franchises."
and Lisa's like,
"Well, just be honest. Stop saying you own 10 salons when you only own 1.5.
and Angie's like,
You're just lying to insult me."
and Lisa's like,
"I didn't do it as an insult. You just took it as an insult.
and Angie's like,
You do French fries, I do franchise."
and if that one-liner weren't good enough already, Mary takes it to a whole nother level. She didn't understand what was said, and she's like, huh? And then Heather explains it to her. She's like, so Angie does franchise, and she said Lisa does French fries. And Mary's like,
"Oh, that was good."
and yes, Mary was good. Lisa responds that she's super proud of everything she's created. And then Angie jumps in and brings up how she invested in Fresh Wolf, which, if you remember, is the product line for men that Lisa created for her sons. And apparently Angie invested on it, put it on her shelves at her salons, and she's accusing Lisa of not doing anything to sell those products, to market those products, but instead peddling herself out so she could get a Kerastase partnership, even though Angie's been partners with them for 26 years. And Lisa goes,
"I didn't peddle myself out. They just love my pretty, shiny hair."
when I tell you, these are the little moments I really love Lisa. Angie repeats that Lisa hasn't done anything to market Fresh Wolf, and she should have focused on that line instead of doing the Kerastase. And Lisa's like,
"That's a men's grooming line, though."
and this is when Angie takes it too far, in my opinion. She says that Fresh Wolf is a C line at best, and that it shouldn't even be on her shelves in the first place, and that it actually belongs at Walmart. When I tell you, I was so uncomfortable watching this because I love seeing the women, drag each other. That's par for the course on Housewives, but you don't bring the children into it. And, putting down their product line, their brand, that's really messed up, Angie. Lisa also gets really upset. She yells that Angie's so jealous and she's questioned everything she has. She's damn near crying at this point. Meredith defends Lisa and is basically like, hey, let's not talk about the children. Heather's the one who really steps up though, and I have to say I have a newfound level of respect for her as not only the narrator of this show, but also the kind of center person who makes sure all the ladies are connected and able to move forward. And she lets Lisa know that she has total empathy for her. She understands that she wants to defend herself after being viciously attacked at the camp when she wasn't there to speak for herself. But she also points out how Lisa has taken things very low at this luncheon. And then she turns around to Angie and tells her that she's taken it just as low by going after the children's brand. She also goes on to tell Lisa that she's not friends with her because of her success, but because she genuinely enjoys being around her. And she's not enjoying herself right now. And she also goes on to compliment Lisa by saying that she's such a strong and fearless person, and that when she has her on her side, she feels invincible. But if Lisa's not on her side, she feels incredibly threatened. And she kind of speaks for the group when she says this. Whitney's again nodding in the back. Lisa finally breaks down, gives the ladies what they've been asking, begging to see from her for seasons by finally being vulnerable. And she admits that she feels vulnerable too at times, and they just can't see it because she grew up way differently from everyone else here. And this is what I said in one of my other recaps that Lisa, I believe, was the oldest sibling of many, many children, and she always felt like she had to take care of everybody and be strong for everyone and keep the family together. Kind of the typical eldest daughter situation. And Lisa actually breaks out in tears, and she kind of goes from person to person and says really nice things about them. She tells Angie that she loves her so much and that she really thought that they were in a good place, and that's why it is so hurtful what went down at the camp. And she apologizes, which is nice. She also tells Heather that she really loves her and that she loves even the way she's tough on her and that she's her greatest champion. And Heather's like sitting there like, oh my God, like me, like she's like crying. Like she's not, the tears aren't falling, but her eyes are so wet. And you can just tell that this is like Christmas, and you know, birthday, Easter, everything all at once for her. So Lisa assures everyone that she wants all of them to thrive because she feels like you're only as good as the people you hang around with. And while she admits that her and Bronwyn definitely have some work to do, she does let her know that she sees her, she acknowledges her, she understands her, even though she might not see it. Bronwyn then concedes that it has given her no joy to hear about Lisa's lawsuits and that the only reason she brought them up is because she just wanted Lisa to stop talking about her. And she also says that she believes that they both hurt each other and that when Lisa's ready to admit her part, that's when the healing can begin. I have to say, I was so surprised at the way this event turned out. Like, we went from the last episode where everyone was screaming, Whitney and Lisa were damn near fighting, to them being like, oh, you know, we all love each other. Like, but it's good to see that. It really is good to see. In the next scene, we see Meredith at her store with her husband and her daughter. Meredith is in the process of remodeling the store. She wants to turn only the front into a little chic jewelry store and then have the back be a speakeasy caviar lounge. This is a big change for Meredith. I mean, her main thing used to be jewelry, but apparently this caviar thing and DJ thing has really been taking off for her. So I guess she's shifting the priorities of her business or the focus of her business. So good for you, Meredith. What about the bags and the clothes though? Because I saw like a lot of those in there. Are those not going to be available anymore? Mary and Heather go out to breakfast. They have some laughs, and I have to say it's really nice to see those two together. Whitney and Justin are in their home, and Justin is putting up Whitney's pole. Remember, she used to have a stripper pole in her bedroom, and apparently that got taken down during some point, but they're setting it back up. And when I tell you, Whitney really had me on the floor. She's acting like the act of putting her stripper pole back up is this big, like, spiritual reawakening, this new beginning. Like, her business failing was the sign from the universe and God to get back on her course, which apparently means getting back on the pole. I don't know. I guess so, girl. We finally get the Lisa and Bronwyn conversation. Bronwyn joins Lisa at her lounge. They sit down to talk. It's really awkward in the beginning, like nobody's saying anything. Finally, Lisa speaks up and she apologizes for all the damaging things that were said, and she tells Bronwyn that she believes they were both hurt. And she also apologizes for the whole situation with Bronwyn and her daughter's grandparents. Remember, Lisa has a close relationship with them, and she agreed to speak to them for Bronwyn, and that didn't turn out so well last season. But Bronwyn reassures Lisa that she only ever felt gratitude and appreciation for Lisa doing that for her, and she said that she's over it. She has it handled with the most important person, which is obviously Gwen. Bronwyn acknowledges that they're currently in a race to the bottom and she doesn't want to do that anymore. And then Lisa starts to explain that she was very triggered at Amy's event because Bronwyn brought up her husband in a negative way, and that just set her off to a whole new level. I mean, we all know how Lisa gets about John, okay? Now, Bronwyn replies that her bringing up John was nowhere near as bad as Lisa saying she sucks dick for money. And I was like, no, we're going left. But thankfully, Lisa admits that low comments are never okay, and Bronwyn says that she's not here to relitigate the past. She just wants to make sure she apologizes for anything and everything she has said or done to hurt Lisa, and that she can promise her moving forward that that won't happen again, and that she also wants to be neutral. Lisa accepts and returns this blanket apology and agrees to move forward with Bronwyn, and they both resolve to never bring up the husbands again, which is such progress. And just like that, their conflict has been resolved. And when I tell you, I'm so excited about this. This is a big part of why I love the Salt Lake City Housewives. Like in every other franchise, take Beverly Hills, take Orange County, like the entire season would have just been Bronwyn versus Lisa and regurgitating the same issue over and over again. Like, matter of fact, it would have been at least 2 good seasons. And like with Salt Lake City, they deaded it. They were offended, they got in a fight, they talked, that it's done. Like, even if they're not going to be best friends, like at least we're not going to have to go through this all season long, you know what I mean? Anyway, they start having a really nice, really normal conversation. Lisa shares that her son is coming home from his mission in less than 2 weeks. Bronwyn catches Lisa up about her living situation. And what's really interesting is she tells Lisa about a disagreement her and Gwen had. And apparently Bronwyn's mother was there to witness it. And she was like so hurt after that. And she told Bronwyn that she feels like everyone should be a grandparent before they're a parent, and that she's so much softer and more gentle with Gwen. And Bronwyn also tells Lisa that her mother acknowledged that she was really hard on her, and that it was very important for her to hear. Now, I took that to mean like, oh, maybe her mother really isn't as bad as she came across. Like maybe she's changed. But no, oh no. And we will get to that later. Anyway, it was really nice to see Lisa and Bronwyn have such a pleasant conversation, and I just hope the two of them can get back to being friends. In the next scene, we see Mary and her cousin at Mary's church. They have been in the process of renovating the church for the last 2 years. And it's really funny because Mary shares with us that the cousin is also her contractor, and that he's totally milking the fact that he's her cousin and that it literally took him a year to just put down some hardwood flooring upstairs. So yeah, she's going through inspecting everything. After that's done, they sit down to talk and they reminisce how Robert Jr. took his first steps in that church, which just is really beautiful. Mary shares that her and Robert are closer than they've ever been, but it's almost more hurtful because now that they are so close, she immediately knows like when he's fallen off or gone back to his old habits, and that's like really difficult for her. Mary also finally opens up about the conflict with her mother. So she shares that everyone in the family knew her grandmother's wishes, which were for Mary to not only take over the church, but to marry her husband, which is Mary's step-grandfather. And she admits that that was odd to everyone. That was odd to her as well as to Robert Sr. But she says that Robert was just trying to obey his late wife's wishes, not do anything extra. And she shares that even though they all knew her grandmother's wishes, after she passed, Mary's mother tried to take over the entire church, and it even escalated to a point where the mother had to be escorted out of the church. And her mother was so angry with Mary for leading the church that she actually broke off all contact with Mary. She didn't want to speak to her anymore. And Mary said she gave her what she wanted, but she definitely felt the absence of her mother, and it really hurt her. So when she died a couple of months ago, it more so felt like it was official in a way, and she's very conflicted about her mother's passing. That must be really hard. And she also talks about how her mother planted all these newspaper articles and gave all these stories that Mary calls lies. You know, those stories about Mary being a victim of grooming by her step-grandfather and of him luring her with money and all that stuff. She says they're lies, and yeah, she's very sad. This is such a complex and difficult situation. Like, I cannot fathom ever marrying my step-grandfather or my grandmother wanting me to do that. Like, that to me makes no sense. And I don't feel like I should really speak on that so much because obviously their family situation is very complex. I'm just glad Mary was able to make peace with the entire situation and is happy leading the church. Anyway, Mary ends up crying, and It is, when I tell you, it is so hilarious. She ends up accidentally wiping her nose with a Louis Vuitton face mask without even realizing it. That's how rich I want to be, okay? So we see Heather going to Angie's hair salon. Apparently Angie's cosmetology license lapsed a very long time ago, so now she's trying to regain it or reactivate it, and she has to take all those exams, so she needs a test subject. So she's asked Heather in to do a perm on her, but they're not using any solution. She's just, wrapping the hair up. And Angie ends up telling Heather a really interesting story. So apparently Lisa's assistant showed up at the salon and said that she was sent there to pick up all the Fresh Wolf product, and that Lisa would send her money for the product. So Angie's like totally off guard. She goes to the basement to pack up the product, and when I tell you, she's so shady. She like blows on the product like it's super dusty or whatever. And then she's carrying the box upstairs like, oh, this is heavy, making sure we all know how little of the product was sold. Anyway, then when the assistant left, she got a text from Lisa saying, hey, I sent you $600, and if you want to, I can send you some cleaners too to help you clean your dusty salon. Lisa, I was with you for picking up the Fresh Wolf product because you will never have one over on me. Like, you will never make me or my children feel like we owe you something. Angie throwing in Lisa's face that she invested in her children's business was so messed up. Like, I would have picked up that product the same day, to be honest. But the comment about the dusty salon was not necessary. Anyway, Angie hits her with you should have given that money to all the people who claim you owe them. And also, my salon is not dusty, but your son's products are. Here we go, right back at it. Lisa then texts back something really weird. She tells Angie that at least she doesn't have to borrow money to go on vacation or pay it back using credit cards she should have never used. Angie's really dumbfounded by this, so I don't know where Lisa was going with that. So Heather and Angie are sitting there both confused how it got there from the other day where everything ended seemingly peacefully. And then Heather brings up, well, you did speak about Lisa's children, which Angie denies. I'm like, girl, stand in it. Like, you did bring up her children. You were dragging their business. And then Angie claims that Lisa was saying her hair was more beautiful than the other ladies, which, mind you, never happened. And she says that Lisa's hair is dyed bowling ball black and it's not shiny. And Heather's like, here you go again. Like, you're throwing out digs or being nasty. And she advises Angie to not go off on Lisa when she sees her. Now we get to the most hilarious scene of the entire episode. Whitney and Brittany go plant shopping. And Brittany asked Whitney to meet her because she felt bad about dragging her business. And she apologizes, which Whitney graciously accepts. Whitney also apologizes for the comments she made, about Brittany sucking dick for money. That seems to be a recurring theme this season. Anyway, Brittany brings up Jared and she tells Whitney that they are still together and that they're working towards getting engaged again. And when Whitney's like, oh, Brittany, she's like,
what? He's so good to me, and we're only taking it slow because of the children.
So then Whitney asks Brittany, like, what does your daughter want? Like, has Olivia told you what she wants from you? And Brittany seriously sits there and says,
well, my daughter wants me not to choose a man over her, but that's so difficult because Jared and I are in such a good place.
Whitney is shocked. Like, she's blown away. She suggests to Brittany to put a pause on dating for a while just to prove to her daughter that she's worth it. And Brittany's like,
wow, that would be a big ask if that's what she needs. Like
she's really not gonna do it. Like, she really is choosing a man over her daughter. So we have Whitney sitting there trying to convince Brittany to be a somewhat decent mother and explaining to her how children should always come first, even when they're adults. And you can tell that Whitney is really triggered and hurt by this because remember, she was estranged from her mother for a very long time, and she shares that with Brittany, and she's like, please just don't give up. And Brittany says it's impossible because her daughter doesn't make space for her, and what is she supposed to do? Is she supposed to sit at home all the time? And Whitney is still trying to convince this lady. Like, she takes her by the shoulders and she's like,
Brittany, this is your daughter. Your daughter, like, you should feel instinctually that you would do anything for her, even stop dating.
And she actually tells Brittany that watching Brittany questioning this is starting to make her feel a certain way. And Brittany is just standing there like dazed and confused. She's like,
huh? Right, I shouldn't choose a man over my daughter. Huh, so you're saying my daughter is supposed to come first?
Like, she doesn't says this, but that's literally how she's standing there looking at Whitney. In the end, Whitney advises Brittany very strongly that she should really take this opportunity to make amends with her daughter because there may not be another one. So now we get to the most important scene of this episode. When I tell you, I am shocked, flabbergasted. Like, I have never seen anything like this on the Real Housewives. I think, to spoil it a little bit, I think that Bronwyn's mother is probably the worst mother / parent that we have ever seen on all of the shows. Like, and I haven't even watched all of them. Like, let's get into it. Bronwyn and her mother are sitting on the couch, and the topic of Gwen's boyfriend living with them comes up, and Bronwyn jokingly goes,
oh, could you imagine me ever asking you to have my boyfriend live with us?
And her mom is very quick to say that that would have never happened. And she says it in a very judgmental, nasty tone. Bronwyn then shares with us in the confessional that her mother judging her parenting is bringing up those old feelings of shame that she carries about, you know, being single and pregnant in college. And she just feels like her mother has this idea of what the perfect Mormon family is, and that Bronwyn will never fit into that. Bronwyn then explains to her mother that Gwen's boyfriend living with her does not bother her because she just values having an open relationship with her daughter. She doesn't want there to be any sneaking around ever. She just rather would know what her daughter's doing, which I have to say I completely agree with. Not the part about moving your daughter's boyfriend in with you, because I think that is just inappropriate, and I think there should be boundaries for everyone involved. But I personally, as a mother, would much rather have an open and honest relationship with my children and not have them be so afraid of me to where they have to lead almost a double life. And at the end of the day, if your daughter, if your son wants to engage in activities, they're going to do it, like, regardless. So I think it's better to educate them about, you know, risks, about being safe, about pregnancy, rather than to just put blinders on yourself and try to put those on them. Anyway, Bronwyn's mother's like, I know it doesn't bother you. That's why it doesn't bother Gwen. She's just following her mother's example. When I tell you Bronwyn's mother is making her out to be some harlot, like, this lady is married and has been happily married for years. What are you talking about? And Bronwyn even says that. She's like,
Mother, I'm not like in the streets.
And she points out that she just set out to be very different with her daughter. Bronwyn's mother, and I use that term loosely, by the way, she says that she's never seen that type of parenting work. And Bronwyn's like,
newsflash, your type of parenting doesn't work either.
And the mother's like, yes, it does. And Bronwyn's like,
no, it didn't. Like, everyone from the family to the school tried to prevent me from having premarital sex. And guess what? It was still happening, and I still ended up pregnant.
The mother then insists that Bronwyn was taught to never drink, smoke, or have sex, and she would have bet her life on it that Bronwyn would never do such a thing. And when I tell you the contempt and disappointment is dripping from that woman, like, I can feel it through the screen. Not only that, but as she's hurling all these incredibly hurtful words at her daughter, she's looking at her with this evil, nasty grin. Like, it's scary. Like, I was watching this whole scene like this. When I tell you this entire scene, I was sitting there like this. Like, It was crazy. I could not believe what I was seeing. Bronwyn is doing her coping mechanism of laughing again. She's like,
Haha, I know you love to give me tough love, but I just don't like to receive it.
Then the mother's like, you see how much better that works? And Bronwyn's like,
no, it doesn't. Like, we have really hard days.
And Bronwyn explains that while she would not be thrilled if her daughter ended up getting pregnant at the same age she did, she would still handle it very differently. And Bronwyn shares, and this is so heartbreaking, she shares that her mother made her pregnancy a living hell. Bronwyn was not allowed to have a baby shower. And not only that, like no one in Bronwyn's life was allowed to celebrate her or be happy for her. Like basically, her mother put the scarlet letter on Bronwyn and made her walk around in shame for 40 weeks. And Bronwyn goes on to say that there were just so many awkward and hurtful moments. And she recounts this just tragic story because apparently Bronwyn's two sisters were pregnant at the same time that Bronwyn was. So the mother took the three of them baby clothes shopping, and they were in the store. And the mother was picking out things for all the babies, and then the sales associate asked the mother, like, hey, like, are you gonna buy something for, you know, Bronwyn's baby as well? And the mother just went, no. And can you imagine? She literally stood there and she bought all these things for her grandchildren and didn't buy any for Bronwyn's daughter. Like, literally, I could cry. Like, I'm sure that was and still is very painful. Sorry, you guys. I'm like emotional. So what I'd like to know is if the mother prefers Bronwyn's sisters so much and they're perfectly in line with her visions of the ideal Mormon family and she just loves them so much more and they're so much more perfect, then why doesn't she live with either of them? Like, what's going on with your other daughters? She wouldn't be living with me. That's all I can say to that. Bronwyn then blames her mother for making sure that she never had a happy pregnancy because obviously she couldn't have known if Bronwyn was ever going to have the chance to go through pregnancy again. And it ended up that she didn't. And the mother's like, well, that's not my fault. Like, you can tell that she was elated that she made sure Bronwyn's pregnancy was horrible. Like, she's like happy about it because she feels like that's what Bronwyn deserves for getting pregnant out of wedlock. Bronwyn then reminds her that she was the one who made the pregnancy miserable. And mind you, the mother's still sitting there giving her that psychotic, horrible smile. And she asks Bronwyn, do you know how miserable I was trying to hide your pregnancy? And Bronwyn is like, she's stunned and she's sitting in the confessional crying, and she shares that she used to think that she just misunderstood her mother and perhaps she didn't mean it, or maybe that her mother had changed and wouldn't do things the same way today. But no, like, she's finally understood that her mother would 100% act the same way and that her mother believes she was the most hurt by the pregnancy. Anyway, the mother brings up the father's position in the temple, and she also tells Bronwyn that she felt like Gwen was just dropped off in her daycare, and reminds Bronwyn of what would have happened if she didn't take Gwen, like implying that Gwen would have went into foster care. And Bronwyn's like, what do you mean? Like, I was working, I was paying bills, and I would have taken a second and third job if necessary. Like, my daughter would have never went into the system. And the mother's like, yes, we all know how adamant you were about keeping her. You never wanted her to be adopted or anything. You can for sure tell that Bronwyn's parents were probably pushing her to give that baby up. And like, the mother actually resents Bronwyn for keeping her daughter. Bronwyn just sits there in stunned silence, like she doesn't know what to say. And then in the end, she just tries to give her mother grace, which she wouldn't have gotten from me. Like, her bags would have been packed immediately. So the mother goes on to say that just because she doesn't tell Bronwyn that she's amazing and wonderful all the time doesn't mean that she doesn't think those things about her daughter. And I was like, oh my God, like, could this be happening? Like, is she gonna say something nice to her daughter? Like, is there some sliver of humanity in this woman? But no, there isn't. She literally tells Bronwyn that she's just being careful to make sure that Bronwyn doesn't think she's wonderful or too good. And then she cackles like the wicked old witch she is. And Bronwyn is just like, she's just sitting there, just nodding her head. It's almost like a trauma response at this point. So basically the mother just admitted to Bronwyn that she actively works to destroy her confidence, and that she was and probably still is ashamed of her. And she's doing all this over Bronwyn having a baby when she was, 19? Bronwyn wasn't a 13-year-old girl. Like, she was a grown-ass woman in college, and she had a baby like that. And even if she were a minor, yes, that would have been, awful, terrible, but that still wouldn't give a mother the right to treat her daughter like that. Like, she's almost gleefully torturing her daughter and punishing her daughter. And you can tell that she's probably jealous of Bronwyn, because even though Bronwyn had an unorthodox start to her family and sinned in the eyes of the Mormon church that the mother clings to so tightly, she still ended up with a pretty great life and with material wealth, and the mother just cannot take it. Like, she probably feels like Bronwyn doesn't deserve that and should have continued to be punished and shunned her entire life. Ultimately, the mother probably just cannot take the fact that even though Bronwyn went against all the church's teachings, she's still happier than she herself probably has ever been. And that's why she hates her daughter. Bronwyn, drop that mean old witch off at somebody's nursing home immediately. Have someone pack her bags, escort her out. Matter of fact, change the locks. I'm dead serious. While you're at it, change your hair as well, because it is way too similar to that nasty, wicked old witch's hair. Honestly, if it were me, I would have never spoken to this woman for the rest of my life, and my daughter would not even know this person. And I get Bronwyn needed her help back then. She was in college, she was a single mother. I completely get that. But if I were Bronwyn, as soon as I had gotten on my feet, I would have removed that woman from my life completely. I cannot. Bronwyn needs to never speak to that lady again. She positively hates you. Anyway, the last scene is Angie and Meredith meeting up for coffee. The two of them have been trying to better their relationship. We see a flashback of Meredith actually gifting Angie a holder for the scroll that she brought out last season. So that was cute. So they're sitting there talking. Meredith catches Angie up about her plans for the store. And then Angie shares with her what went down between her and Lisa. And Meredith also advises her to proceed with caution, because she said when children are brought up, they all get very reactive. So she asks Angie to give Lisa some grace. It's really sad that Angie can't be that serious about working on her relationship with Meredith, because instead of spending quality time with her, she turns the conversation to Lisa, and she comes out with this bombshell accusation and tells Meredith that back when Meredith and Angie were not on good terms, Lisa was trying to convince Angie and was encouraging her to dig up dirt on Meredith's relatives. And Angie claims that Lisa was even giving her names, giving her the correct spellings of the names, and really egging her on to do this to get Meredith off of her back and intimidate her. But she tells Meredith that she didn't do that because that's not who she is. But apparently that's who Lisa is. Girl, please, this was years ago. You are only bringing this up to get back at Lisa, not out of any type of concern for Meredith, because if you had been concerned, you would have brought this up years ago. And mind you, you didn't have an issue being friends with a person who's like that until it didn't serve you anymore and you took center snowflake. But now you want to act like you're just so morally offended. Meredith sees right through Angie, thank God. She's like, Lisa is loyal. Angie has lied on me for years, and I'm having a hard time even believing this is true. But she does say that she's gonna find out, and she also tells Angie that she's gonna have to speak to Lisa about this because it is very disturbing. And Angie's just like, yeah, I know, and you should, because she said it, every word. We'll see, I guess. That's where the episode ends. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I can't wait to see you for our next vacation. And until then, have a blessed day. Bye.